and I will check to make sure that we are live as well. Hang on. Twitch. Me. Yeah, we're live. Happy days. Right, ladies and gentlemen, as and when you drop in, because this wasn't meant to be live, but it is now, we're finally back after what appears to be probably about 600 years, Pabs, since we last did our last podcast, mate. And we've got quite the guest for episode 2. I mean, do you want to introduce him or should I introduce him?
No, I think you should introduce him. I'm just laughing at the idea that we were talking about doing the podcast for the last 3 months and we just never get into a call about it. And then when we do decide to do it, it's so off the cuff. It's unbelievable. But yeah, I'll leave you to the introductions.
We've brought on somebody who a lot of you will probably know, let's be realistic, the heartbeat of COD challenges and all news that me and Pablo use all the time, actually, to be fair. We spam the refresh button every tournament in challenges if Pab's drinking San Miguel and I've fallen asleep midday being old. And welcome, brother. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well, guys. It's nice to be here. I'm glad you asked me to come and do this. It's obviously something I'm very excited about.
I mean, we've got a lot to cover in this one, and before we even started going live, things just kept appearing on the timeline, which was great. We've timed this perfectly. Literally last week when we were doing the Katana Cup, obviously with you as well, we were saying, yeah, we'll fit a pod in. Let's go Thursday next week. We can do Thursday next week, and we've dropped it on a Thursday where there's been some news, and where do you want to start with it, really? Yeah.
I mean, if you just start from Monday and work your way forwards, we should be massively irate by the time we get to Thursday. I've promised both these guys, both Ant and Major, that I wouldn't start flinging mud like wholeheartedly like I normally do, but I don't think I'm going to need to. I think we can just let Ant go on a complete like verbal tirade.
Honestly, it's difficult because I feel like we're in a position where it's just such a shit show from start to finish. Like, if you think about all of the news that's come out this week, and I'm not even going to touch on the YouTube thing that can wait until the end because that's just happened, and that's one of the most annoying parts about it. But the fact that we're only having 3 challenges open lands this year, and 3 stages of challenges elite, like that's enough to get people pissed off.
Yeah.
And myself included, like that's taken away essentially a quarter of our season again. Like that's now 3 years in a row that we've regressed. We had 5 elites in Cold War. 4, and then 4, and then 4 again, now 3. And it's just not enough for us. I know Challengers players play more COD in terms of actual matches than pro players, but they play for a lot less money, and they need to be playing that much COD to make money. And it's just a shame.
Well, I can remember Steve Vortex complaining about Cold War regress financially, even back then. That never mind the actual, the elites, the stages themselves, just the reduction in how much you were playing for, and now it doesn't even look like it's survivable.
Yeah, and the thing is, for me, I'm continually being told things behind the scenes that I've not shared that are just making me even more pissed off at the whole situation. Like, there's stuff that I can't say because it'll get people in trouble and stuff like that. But the things that I'm being told, it just makes me more and more irate about the situation. Yeah. Like, it's just everything behind the scenes in the CDL is just dog shit.
Absolute dog shit. Now, I'm not gonna try and make you fucking confess something that you don't need to. But you know that who I work with, and they said financially it's a mess. Like, it's a mess financially, and I just doing the maths alone on the fact that if it is 5 mil a team for 12 teams, they're putting in 60 mil a year, and you're thinking like the stadiums that they hire are like 5,000 seater stadiums, probably cost 15 grand to hire, maybe slightly more. But it's the maths isn't adding up to me, them saying that they've got like financial constraints. Now we know COVID hit them hard and all the other issues that they weren't able to do. But let's be honest, like it does the maths just on a quick, napkin basis. Let's not get started on Bryson Tunn. The fact that they've reduced the maths on the finances don't seem to be adding up somewhere.
Well, this is the thing I would say. Like, when you talk about maths with esports, or just sports in general, the core funding comes from fans, right? So a lot of how it starts is from, like with football, ticket entry. And that's how clubs generate money. And then this is the other thing. This is why it all piles up and pisses everyone off. So they've announced today that obviously when it went back on Twitch, when COD went back on Twitch, everyone got hyped. The viewership started flying up again, which will obviously start to encourage more sponsors because there's more eyes on the event. And then they're talking about financial problems, and then they're tanking viewership again by going to YouTube. We don't know the numbers with this deal that they've agreed, but it just seems so. Everything just seems so scatterbrain at the moment with COD. There doesn't seem to be like any transparency or any kind of understanding that kind of what fans would like to see, because everything that they seem to say just gets completely contradicted. I wouldn't mind if COD said, listen, next year we're on YouTube, and they were honest, and then we got given it black and white, this is what we're doing. But we don't. We never get it with the whole challenges thing, and the thing that I've memed multiple times now about. Is it Daniel Say? I can't remember his name now, but saying like being the front face. Like, I don't know, right? He might be a puppet on strings for all I know, but he comes out and he gives this whole bravado about, yeah, we're supporting challenges, we're doing all this for challenges. Challenges is going to be great. I'm so optimistic about challenges, right? And everything they've announced has been woeful. Like, if I'd rather them just say, by the way, it's going to be really shit next year.
It is the thing. This is
Yeah,
I
that's
tweeted
true.
about this like an hour before we came on the podcast. It's one of the most toxic traits of the CDL era is that when they have something shitty to announce, they just wait until the last minute because they know it's going to piss everyone off.
Yeah.
And if they don't give people that time after they've announced it to backlash and force them to go back on themselves, then they can't do that.
Yeah.
And that it's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. And it just it's so vindictive to me.
Well, I think the two ways to look at this are essentially for the way that they announce stuff is reflective of either it's an organization in disarray, like there is no cohesive, like we know the business model is a mess, and once they hit that year running after COVID and realised that mess, they should have just threw it in the bin, but contracts were made and whatever, they have to see out the 5 year, and that's what it is. But for the way that they release stuff, it's clearly no roadmap. They're clearly just going one way. If they get bounced off that, we've had private conversations between ourselves where we know for the fact that they've gone one way and they've completely valued what they think the process is and been told where to go, and then they've had to go to another place to try and get something solved. We know for a fact that it's not just a business model. Sorry, if that isn't the case, if it's not a lack of organisation, it's a lack of care. So they're either completely unorganised or they don't give a shit. It's one of the two, because makes no sense from a business perspective.
Well, it's like Anne said, it's almost like they're lobbing a hand grenade in the room and being like, okay, bye. Right at the last second, it's like, oh, by the way, we're on YouTube. Anyway, season 1, let's go. And everyone's like, hang on a minute, we haven't even started. Like, you don't get a chance to process it. Everyone just has that instant, what the fuck? Like, it just drops it and then they fuck off. And it's like, oh, yeah, you just got to live with that now.
And this is typified by the fact that Connor Chambers, who used to be the team manager at Toronto Ultra, he said that they found out midway through last season about the YouTube deal. So they could have announced it for the last 8 months.
And that would have given an opportunity to people who kind of make a living through COD and challenges and YouTube and Twitch to start making some kind of transition, or at least have them both running, or being able to build an audience. So when they want to do watch parties and all the other bits that are involved in YouTube, they're not wholly ground into one arena and all the other stuff that comes with it. So it's like a lack of understanding of their community. Like it's not that it's niche, but it's not huge, and they really don't have an understanding of their core community whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's just another case of the community coming last as well. It feels like the people who make COD are the people who play every day. It's the people who want to go and watch these matches because they have an appreciation for the pros, or they want to watch and get better themselves. And it's those people that are just completely neglected by the people making these decisions, and it's been the case since franchising came in, and
Yeah.
even for a little bit before that as well.
But
it's just a downward
Yeah.
spiral.
and this is
I think there's sorry, mate. I think there's two other issues as well that it instantly it negatively impacts that we're not going to see just yet. Is obviously with the reduction in the amount of elites and the amount of like land competition that people are going to get to play, they've got less ability to prove that they deserve to be in the CDL, which is going to be an issue. And then there's obviously the CDL is going to essentially become almost incestuous in the ability for it to rotate challenges out and into the CDL because of that. So it's going to become, and you know, you're going to see the same grifters in the CDL that we've seen for years that should have been shifted out for, you know, the Exceeds of the world, for the Assaults of the world, for the Kismets prior to him going up last year.
Yeah.
He sat in challenges like a dickhead who didn't deserve to be there at all. It was clear, patently obvious to everyone he should have gone up.
And now he's got a ring.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it was like clearly obvious to everyone in challenges, like, why is he here? But we're going to be in the same position now with like the challenges in NA. Now we love EU and we know that there's like 4 or 5 incredible teams, but the challenges in NA arguably got like 4 or 5 teams that are better than everything in the CDL. Like some of those teams are ridiculous.
I just find it mind-boggling that the take the CWL CDL thing. Like, honestly, and I'm not just being biased, I've never seen someone on Twitter go, thank God the CWL is gone, the CDL is so much better. Every single bit of feedback, I know it's like with Uber Eats or food reviews, the only reviews you're going to get are negative ones. I've not seen anyone, right, apart from either people who are involved in kind of like that monopoly of the franchising part of it, ever say, oh, thank God CWL is gone and thank God CDL's here. I haven't seen it once, like, at all.
I reckon the Red Reserve guys might have a conversation with you about that.
It's just
but that's
mental.
less to do with the format of the thing and more to do with Red Reserve. I am being a facetious.
But CWL was just like, it was like the core backbone Call of Duty where anyone can basically enter it and anyone can make it to the top. It wasn't a closed door where you had to either know the right person who will give you the password to get in, or potentially through illness or something else that someone else drops out, you then sub in, and then all of a sudden you just absolutely smash it. It's just so frustrating on so many levels. And the thing is, it's not a new thing. This has been going on for however long now, and the warning signs have been there from multiple people. Even the thing is, people who are playing COD at the moment, obviously under contract, they're somewhat chained up as to what they can say and what they can comment on. For example, like Scump, while he was in, he could obviously only say so much. Octane probably the same because of fines and all this other stuff. And then as soon as they come out and start doing their own live streams and they've got no strings attached to the CDL, they just punch holes in it. They butcher it because they know, thank God, I'm not going to get fined anymore, so I can actually be honest. And this is why it's really bizarre. We know a lot of people behind the scenes as well, like people involved in any sort of production or anything like that obviously we're not going to name drop because they're doing their utmost to make it on a hobby that they know and love. They all have the same opinion that the CDL is a pile of shite at the moment and it's going one way, and that is that it's going in the ground. Luckily, we have a huge number of people involved in COD at the moment, like Ant, for example, who don't want to see it die. I think even if CDL died, you'd still have people like Ant and that involved in it still because of the passion for COD and the community, that tournaments would still be run external to the CDL at all. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people give the middle finger to the CDL and all of a sudden start giving these other lower events, or I know one phrase, Ant, that popped up over the weekend was the fucking pup cup thing. That pissed me right off, by the way. The cheek. Wow.
Mate,
I mean,
he dropped 60 for the loss, so it doesn't.
That blew my mind. Again, won't name names, can't be asked with drama, it's just not really what we do, but it was just
I'll name names, fuck the Americans.
That's mental. That is mental. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's like having the audacity to backlash like charity stuff. It's just like my mind was blown when I saw that. I was like, oh, somebody's doing something amazing for the scene. Literally, where I mean, and in the 48 hours, How many hours do you think were spent sleeping in that? Probably 3, 4.
I think maybe maximum of 6, and the other 42 hours at my setup.
I know, and then reading stuff like that. That's where
Sorry,
it's just
the NA spreadsheet alone was like
Mm.
the dedication that went into
Mate.
piecing that together.
Yeah.
I was like, God damn, that man's a hero.
But that's
I mean, wild. But yeah, you're gonna like. I think it's interesting that you get players like that coming out saying, "Oh, what is this cup and all that?" Well, you're not gonna have a lot of COD to play if you don't have these cups. Like, there's gonna be nothing for you to play. You might as well fuck off to Halo.
Well, the thing is, we're not going to have a Challengers Cup until January now. Like,
Yeah.
bro, the whole point
Was
of
it
it.
Vanguard? We'd have had 3 by then. I think we
Yeah,
the Spanish squad's done 3.
Last year we had 1 cup, an elite qualifier, and a major qualifier. At this point,
Yeah.
like, the whole point of it was because of that, to try and give something back. Yes, I know it wasn't the same amount of prize pool as a normal cup, and I'm sorry.
yeah, and
Question mark.
yeah,
Like,
and
my bad.
remortgage and do better.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, my fault. It's like, yeah, whatever. But like, the whole point of it, I think I said it best at 6:30 in the morning on Monday morning when I was at the end of my my cast of the lower bracket final with
Yeah,
Andy.
Brody, a lightweight.
Yeah, Brody laying down on his bed and me and Andy there casting the lower bracket final. Which went to map 5 as well. That was wild. But I think after that I said it, and I was like, everything that is done comes out of just pure passion and love for everybody in the community. It's like I don't get paid for anything that I do in challenges. Like, not everything, all of the time, the money, the effort that I've expended into everything here is just completely down to love and passion for everybody else involved. And I think some people miss that sometimes, especially some people in NA, particularly the ones who have been pros for years and years and dropped down.
Yeah.
I think they just don't really understand that.
I suppose it's like people who have only known, again, I know it's another football analogy. It's like you do get certain fans that are only aware of the Premier League. And then if they have like an FA Cup game against, I don't know, like my guys, Maidstone United, if we played Man United, you'd have people from Man United be like, oh, fuck, well, I'm not going to watch that game. It's going to be rubbish. But obviously for people of Maidstone, it's like, yeah, this is the biggest game of our entire life. So there's that kind of complete chop and change of like, say, environment, and where you've had people who have only known the top level of Call of Duty. And that's why it's so frustrating as well, that when they do find out, oh, people are putting the best part of 40 out of 48 hours unpaid to bring people a cup that has been cut out of challengers, when they've just come across challengers and they have the audacity to slate it. It's mental. Of things that they didn't even probably know existed.
If you drop into a CDL live chat, though, it is mainly people who've got no clue. Like, the amount of times we've watched, EU challenges players make their debut in the CDL, and the chat is just like, who is this person? Where have they come from? Why are they here? It is just largely people. But when you've got pros who must know the scene inside and out and drop down to challenges and act like they're above a cup that they have to play in order for them to stay relevant, because that's the position they're in. They just don't realize it. They're just not realizing that, with there only being a handful of elites and actual lands to play, people are going to be looking to see their performances, especially if we're able to run a ton of these type of tournaments across both sides. Everyone's going to be watching. So if you're sat there thinking you're above it, then you're never getting back into the CDL. That's just the truth of it now.
Well, kind of on another random note, because I know Andy has dropped in the chat. He's so handsome. Was it last year? I think it was last year, where Andy and Brody, because of the technical issues they were having on the CDL, they put challengers on the main screen and on the main broadcast. I think it was last year, unless I'm going crazy.
Yeah. No, it was, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they ended up going on mainstream. Andy will probably give us a shout.
Was that not Vanguard champs when Team?
No, it was last year. It was definitely last year.
It was maybe
it may have been Boston.
Oh, maybe no. Andy is saying during Vanguard champs, but I remember they went on the screen, right? Okay, on stream, I know, it's almost like you know your stuff. It went on the screen. I remember because whenever I watch COD on Twitch, on YouTube, right, that chat box is closed. I do not read it because you get I lose brain cells for the most part. Those guys went on the screen, and obviously the typical, oh, who are these guys? Oh, they're rubbish. They haven't even spoken. Oh, I don't want this. Get it off. Get it off. Get it off. And then give it 5 minutes, and then you get a couple of comments. Oh, these guys are actually all right. Oh, the COD's actually quite enjoyable, actually. And then give it 10 minutes, and then a few more people, obviously, sheep. Oh, yeah, they're actually quite good. They're just almost like they know what they're doing. Oh, who are these guys? And then all of a sudden, everyone from, like, challengers who actually knows them is like, yeah, by the way, these people do exist. They're actually very good at what they do. But it's only because of a sheer, like, random event or something like that people even fathom that there is something under the CDL and where these players come from. It's like when you get new players in the CDL. Like, because I'm saving this topic for later because he deserves a short segment in the podcast for Eric, right? Okay. Oh. If Eric was on the starting team, which I won't go into it just yet. If Eric was on the starting team, I know the second they would go, and Heretics, and you'd have Vickle, and the other guys. Obviously, a lot of the Heretics guys would have been recognised from before, and then everyone would have gone, "Who the fuck is Eric Boom? Oh my god, I bet he's absolutely ass." He's but it's just another showing that people are like, these players come from somewhere. You know, they aren't just like spawned in like to Pro 8s and then all of a sudden they get into the CDL. There is like a grassroots side of COD that just doesn't get seen. And so many people put so many hours into trying to even like make people realise that challenges is a thing. Which is so frustrating and so stressing. And then,
every year it's getting less of a thing, which is
I know, and this is the thing that frustrates. You've got a £60 million a year like income, right, from teams.
What year are we in for CDL, by the way?
Oh God, too many. I think is the answer to
that.
No,
I mean it must be at the end of its first commercial cycle at least.
Year 5.
Year 5. Is this a cash grab then? Is it a cash grab? Because they'll have the teams will have had to fork out this 60 mil, and then they've what three majors? What is that gonna, and a champs? What's that gonna total in prize pools? It's not gonna touch. It's not gonna be anything.
Well, it's gonna be at least $225,000 less than last year. Let me tell you.
Yeah, so it's less. Honestly, I mean, you know that I'm the worst conspiracy nut for this stuff. You know, in terms of like the way they have to maintain viewership, so they can't have certain sides go out, and you know, I'm always a bit dubious. You know where my conspiracy mind goes. They've got the big dial, and if Opta can't do them well, the big dial gets turned to make sure that their viewership doesn't get fucked off on Friday. But like, if you consider how much it potentially costs to run this year, and you're getting 60 mil, you know, we obviously don't know all the financials. A lot of that might go out on patent licenses for merch and things like that. We just don't know. But it just doesn't seem to add up. And if the reduction every year is a final cash grab on the back of them, either the organisation that's presently running it losing that at the end of this year, and Activision, because it's now Microsoft, looking to do something different in-house or whatever, is it a cash grab?
I know too much. So
yes, folks.
I have to stay quiet, and I'm going to deflect over to what Andy said in the chat about the hardest part is getting the publication on challenges, because we as a community need to try and, you know, like unify to get more eyes on it. And I think weirdly we're in what probably the best position we have been for a while. Like, not to like brag or anything, but at this point last season, the rotation Twitter account had 7,500 followers. Going into this season, over 30,000. And that's over 30,000 people who are going to be seeing that link to the challenges matches every single time the match is on.
Yeah.
At least 30,000 people.
But again, I know we're going to be doing a lot of finger pointing this evening, right? I remember. Again, I can't remember the title and I can't remember the game. There was a moment that we were chilling in the Clutch chat and there was like a Challengers final. It might have been the Vanguard final. It might have been the same thing. Andy will probably be able to correct me on this. But we were sat in there and we were like, right, the CDL wasn't playing. And there wasn't even like a retweet about like the Challengers final. There wasn't like a tweet with like, I don't know, anything that takes 5 minutes. Oh, by the way, Challengers Final is on. These are the players. Like a 2-minute graphic or something. There's so little involvement from the CDL to anything Challengers related, and it's so bizarre. It's like it's almost like an embarrassment to be like, like Challengers.
I wouldn't expect any improvements there this year either. It's like the CDL have let go of 2 of their social media managers who have actually cared in the past, like this summer, this off season as well. So like, I wouldn't expect any sort of support there this year, which is a glaring miss. Like, it is a huge miss.
Yeah.
Because when you've got an account that's got like more than 1 million followers, like surely like more than just tweeting the winners should be on your agenda.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with social media is as well, things like likes and retweets from accounts like that with a lot of eyes on it. It takes 2 seconds to retweet something or like it, and then all of a sudden it goes out. There's no effort, there's no cost. You literally press it once.
If someone's not doing it and it's consistently not being done, then that's a strategy right there, isn't it? It's not like someone's forgotten. That's a strategy. Like, they've been told not to do it, or they've been given a basic boundary, and doing any kind of promotion for challenges isn't in the remit of that boundary, which essentially is the same as them being told not to do it.
But I don't get why. I don't understand. There's no negative connotation to
being
like.
It could be more of an American business thing. So because it's an entity that's entirely funded from the outset, and then the way they look at challenges, being something like they how Shift got his money. Like, for the first couple of years, we were getting it at the end of the season when he had to literally go to Activision, and the CDL teams were chipping in as well, and so he's got no funding. So it's not, from kind of like a corporate perspective, I don't think that why give a, it's like an amateur thing. Why they don't give a shit.
It just
benefits them in no way. It doesn't make them any money, and and it's taking time out of someone's day that they're paying. I think that's all they view it as.
Yeah, I get it, but at the end of the day, we can only control what we can control.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to be the mentality. Like, we have to do the best that we can for us without relying on support from other people.
Yeah. So,
I think we have to get into that mentality of, like, we need to look out for each other because nobody else is going to do it for us.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's that kind of self-sustaining mentality of, because we know, like, there is a huge core of people that are willing to do a lot for Call of Duty challenges, whether it's broadcast talent, whether it's production talent, orgs as well. We are seeing, and to be fair, the NA guys and the NA org owners, like the Team Notorious org owners, Deviants, we're starting to see like quite a heavy involvement. Obviously, Awoba as well, that did his stuff last year as well. And again, like me and Pabs, when we do this stuff, like, because we've done obviously the clutch support, the kind of the processing thought of being paid to do casting doesn't really cost. I remember when we first got asked, how much do you charge? And me and Pabs were like, we don't. Well, we've never charged. Like, we don't even know what this isn't a thing for us really. But we are starting to see a lot more people combining whether resources, time, and it's actually starting to. There is a bit of a snowball process now. Obviously, kind of segueing into LAN events. Obviously, we know EU LAN's not a thing. But then all of a sudden, you look at next year, you've got Katana who are running a few. ES Hub as well have announced that they're going to be looking to do a LAN. I can't remember if theirs is the one in Germany or whether that's COD Agent. I can't remember off the top of my head. But all of a sudden...
Yes. Well, COD Agent in Germany.
Yeah. So we've got...
Have we really lost audio?
Oh no, is it me? I think it might be me. Hang on.
Yeah, you're on to, mate.
That's so annoying.
You have to work some magic.
Yeah.
This is we have technical difficulties. It's like almost being in 2K okay for like the entire time, which was quality because both of us were like Minecraft to pay late stage.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
me. I'm pretty sure it's my internet. For some reason, my internet is just tanking like horrendously at the moment. Hang on.
That's you do a little bit better though. I don't know, but yeah, it's the question. Challenge is going where honestly the amount of support I've got and you do need to know some people willing to travel and willing they can get support to kind of expect the core challenge going there. And the cell go and then the cell if picked up through soft active work and they come on. I totally expect casting over anytime.
Oh.
I'm completely lost all track of you know, which is
Hang on.
which is going away. We've become a text only podcast.
Oh no,
which is
I
disturbing.
think I'm back. I think I'm
Oh,
back.
hello. Hello.
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello. Am I back?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God for that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
You are back.
I know. Sorry, Pabs. That huge segue.
Yeah, you just have to hear me go on like
I was gonna say that huge segue.
monologue.
Yeah, that huge segue kind of came out like a Wally. So the stream wouldn't have caught any of that. Sorry, mate. I don't know if you want to give another segue.
Thank God for that. It was probably for the best, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But you know, in answer to one of the questions that was put in the chat, all it was someone said the challenge is going to die, and it's not. If anything, challenges is always going to be in the best position because it's largely supported for free, and that's not going to change. And you know, the first place that people with the fresh talent comes to is challenges. So it's always going to have new faces. It's always going to have the people willing to support and knowing how to support it for that's more important, is that a lot of the people involved kind of have been doing it for a while now and know
Yeah.
how to support it, the best ways to do it. We've got a few people who are going to get really experienced at putting on lands, which is going to be great for well, particularly the UK. I don't want to say EU because it's not massively fair to the Frenchies or the Spanish lads, but obviously the UK lands are going to make a massive impact on the lads that are stuck in challenges right now. I just don't know beyond next year how the movement from challenges to whatever comes next, if it's the CDL or if it's something else in another format, I don't know how that movement's going to be made. And the worst thing for me is I just right now, what happens if you're, you know, Bants or Beans or someone like that who's got massive talent, it should be in the CDL and don't have an enormous platform now to show that this year.
I was gonna literally just be like, Ant, because
Again, I plead the fifth. I can't say anything.
yeah, it's all right, Pat. We'll just keep throwing shit at the wall till it sticks, and then hopefully we can like get some kind of psychologist in that's like a king of reading body language and be like, yeah, his eyebrow twitch. That's the one. That's the one. That's the one. That's right. No, but
I don't even know what questions to ask him now. I'm like a bit baffled. It's like I feel like getting the 8-ball out.
Well, I'll ask a question, Ant. A very quick one that will get the ball rolling on this. Modern Warfare 3 out of 10. What are you giving it at the moment?
Well, considering I've played probably about 4 hours of the game.
Also consider
UPS,
in terms of broadcast and
UPS.
watching. In terms of broadcast and watching as well, take that into consideration as a game to watch and entertainment. What are you giving it as a combined score?
I think it has so much potential. We just need better maps. Like am not like we'll see it tomorrow when the CDL starts. It's going to be an invasion in Karachi fest. That's what it's going to be.
I've literally got a thing on my notes. You see it. I've got maps and game modes, Karachi and invasion. Like that cup.
That's all we're playing.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, winners final for the American Cup was Invasion Karachi Invasion. I wanted to. Oh,
Major said like even before the cast began. Actually, it might have been the Deviants one, and he was like, "These bringing back old maps is all well and good, but everyone like the mechanics are like 3 times faster when these maps first came out, and like everyone is just so much quicker, and the time to kill is totally different. So." Like the things that made those maps great in a slower time to kill world, and the mechanics weren't as easily broken or manipulated, just aren't the same. It's not going to be the same, and you could see that. And other things, like you can bring old maps back, but if you don't get the spawns right, or you don't get the hard points right, then it doesn't make any difference what map it is, because it's going to be shit anyway. And
Yeah.
sub base is a belter. You've got sub base is like the pinnacle of fucking stupidity in map making. You've got two spurious like hard points that just, if you get that side and you can defend that side, you've won the
I
game.
know.
And then it's got dodgy spawns to boot.
Well, yeah, no. The fundamental of hardpoint has always been a P1 in the middle, then you pick like a side or a corner for P2, and then you literally go opposite side of the map, then opposite side of the map, then opposite. That's the whole point of rotations. Obviously, shout out on hard points that you sacrifice a bit of time on that existing hill to make up for it on the next hill. And we've got P2 and P3 where they're sharing a party wall, like right next to each other. It's just like I don't understand how no one has gone. By the way, guys, you know we normally do hills like far away from each other. We've got one literally out the window to the next one. How has that not been picked up? It's either not been picked up and missed somehow, or they're just absolute burgers and they've realised and gone, yeah, no, I'll do.
I think Terminal is another great example of this.
Yeah.
Like, it's just horrible. So you've got P1 to P2 makes perfect sense for me, I think. But then it just gets completely fucked from there on.
Yeah.
Like, and usually, like, rotations, you think 25, 30 seconds, that's when we're going to start thinking about going to the next point. But for that Burger Town hill, you've got to be going at 45, 50.
Yeah.
Me and
I've seen over and over again like a 35-second rotation. Like,
well, me and Pab saw in one of the games. I think it was Boxhead versus someone, and they were battling for Burger Town before the hill before had even got about 6 or 7 seconds in. Like the new hill had popped, and you literally just had 2 people from each team fighting over by Burger Town. That just shows you that something's not right with that.
The thing is, as well, that plain hill can be fought for by 2 or 3 players. You don't need your all 4 of your players for that hill, because it's such a narrow thing. One person could easily get 3 kills there.
Yeah.
Like, just because they line up, because it's so.
Well,
so
I think
thin.
we saw Twiz do it a couple of times. Just burst in and get a 2-piece, then get killed, and then the rest of his team could just swan in. We saw a couple of examples where they were trying to come in from the terminal side, Eskies, and try and break through, and it was just it's a madness. The whole thing's a madness.
But the thing is, like, Modern Warfare 2, this was kind of something me and Pab spoke about before. MW2 maps, yes, it's all well and good bringing back old maps. I get that. But that Call of Duty wasn't built with a game mode like Hardpoint. It was built around pubs, TDM, Search and Destroy. Search and Destroy on MW3, I don't think will be that bad. I think Search and Destroy is the best game mode out of it, because Search and Destroy was a pretty much like nailed in game mode when MW2 was played frequently in pubs. But now you've got a game mode in Hardpoint that has come in a later iteration of COD, and they're trying to cram it into a game and a set of maps that just it wasn't there for. And it's like trying to put it on some of like the old favorite CTF maps and trying to put a hard point on it that doesn't work, or trying to put a search and destroy on it that doesn't work.
We've just got to hope that Greece is a good map for Hardpoint, and then we've got to hope again that Rio is a good map for Hardpoint. But I think that would be some sort of record that they release 2 maps in the same season that are competitive viable. So I guess we're waiting. Just put Mikado back in the rotation.
Have you played Greece yet?
No, I've not. Like I said, I've literally played 4 hours of the game. Today's the first day that I've been able to play the game.
Yeah, stop doing pup cups, then. God's sake.
Swimming, swimming. It's loads of swimming. Swimming is back for Greece.
But
there you go.
Not being funny, right? Like, I remember,
bikini on.
It feels like every year at the moment with COD, we are going back to the previous COD and being like, we didn't realise what we had until it was gone. I remember when Vanguard came out and everyone was like, oh god, these maps are absolutely cheeks. And then we went on MW2 and everyone went, this makes Vanguard Bocage look good on some of those hard points and some of those maps when they first come out. And the thing is, they've got such a big map pool in some of these CODs, and you get maybe 2 or 1 that people go, that's actually an all right map, and you see it across Hardpoint, Control, and Search. There are so many maps that people instantly go, well, that obviously doesn't work. We can't do this one. That one doesn't work. We can't do this one. And it's again with this COD, we've got 2 maps really, Karachi and Invasionception for everything at the moment.
I mean, I know they
Oh,
to talk to devs, but it must be such a small window, and they must just absolutely take nothing on board. I think if they were able to widen that window so that comp players could get access and at least give them the kind of advice that they need,
but
that would make a hell of a difference. But they just don't appear to not give a
but then
shit.
so here's sorry, Pabs, random interruption. Then here's a question for Ant. The people, and do you have any idea of kind of the people who are involved in producing the games? As not like specifics, but do you know, for example, because I swear there was a while ago where it was either someone like Aches was like, yeah, I'm going to be involved in some of the map creation or some of this other stuff. Is there anyone who has played COD or anything that you know of where you've got people that are going, like go-to people that have played the game or have had a big involvement in map creation before that has worked, that are helping with this? Or are they just flying blind and just drawing things up and going, yeah, that'll do, vomit it?
I am very, very skeptical to blame the developers because they can only do what they're told from the higher ups.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
those are the people that anger should be directed at. Like, if you boil it down, the developers have made a really good game in Modern Warfare 3. Like the game works as it probably should. Like how they've been asked to make it. The
Yeah.
game is that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to sit here and blame the developers for I don't know, like choosing to put all the Modern Warfare 2 maps back in, because that definitely wasn't their decision.
No.
Yeah, something like that though. That's a global strategy right there. That is a higher decision
Exactly,
making
that's what I
process.
mean.
But
Yeah.
in terms of pipelines, like the choice of where hardpoints go and the spawn algorithm is definitely in the remit of the lead design and that team of lead designers. They'll have, and I'm sure they'll have an opportunity to say, you know, and this is what infuriates me, is that largely this game is kind of, its tolerance in terms of how different it is year on year has got smaller and smaller, because now it fits into this ecosystem that, like, there's been elements where you can see there is a distinct lack of um passion for it. So Codcaster is a great example. Like, we can tell you year on year that problems with Codcaster just never seem to get rectified, and it will only be simple little things, but it's something that shouldn't get overlooked in a design pipeline. And then you extrapolate that out to how the comp maps and the way that the something like spawns are, or the way that something like hardpoint rotations are and where they're placed. That's not a higher up decision. That's going to be in the pipeline for the design process.
I still think that it's unfair to blame them for this game. And Modern Warfare 2, that goes out the window because Joe Seacott was in charge, and nothing can be trusted of a team led by Joe Seacott. I think if it's still the case next year, when we've got this new Treyarch Black Ops Gulf 4 or whatever it's called, and they've had 4 years to develop this game, Sledgehammer had 18 months to do Modern Warfare 3. Like, we have to realize that that's a short timeline when it comes to video game creation.
That's incredible. But
Like,
say, how much of that is that based on an existing engine though? So are they just building on top of an existing engine with that?
So that it was the Modern Warfare 2 engine.
So they're building literally on the existing engine. It's still a short space of time to develop a game in it anyway.
Yeah, I just think that it's hard for the developer team to really be nitpicky, and they can't test the game to a pro level properly before it comes out either, because like they just simply don't have pro players on the dev team. So like they have to wait until the game comes out for them to understand whether some of the decisions that they've made are good or bad. And that probably should be changed for future games. Like, say Treyarch managed to get a group of 10, 12 pros to go and actually test the game properly.
Yeah.
When before the game comes out, those are discussions that can happen before the game comes out. But again, with the really condensed development time of Modern Warfare 3, I just like I said, I'm just really not wanting to put the blame on the developers whatsoever.
Well, playing.
Sorry, Major, but when they have already shown that they are willing to listen, especially the Sledgehammer devs. They have been very communicative, and they have been very willing to change the game as quickly as possible due to players' demand.
Well,
Yeah,
because
Rachel, could you
this
quickly
was
tell them about that thing? Never
well,
mind,
one
sorry.
thing I was going to say, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate, right? So, Hardpoint sub base is a competitive map. We will see it probably at some point in the CDL with these hills being the wrong way round and swapping them over, this kind of thing. In terms of a gaming and a coding aspect of it, I know I'm a bit naive to it, right? But COD historically has been so slow when they get the feedback to actually do anything with it. Like when the game first comes out, people identify the player base identifies so many problems with so many things very quickly. Some of them are easy to fix, some of them not so easy to fix. But from my experience and from what I've seen, they are horrendously slow at actually implementing the update. So for Subbase, for example, not changing where the hill is, changing the order of the hill, that to me, in terms of a multi-million-pound company being able to find some form of update or patch to sort that out, I will not be amazed. I will not be amazed if we have to wait until midway through January or end of January before they just swap some of the hills around.
Yeah, and it's not like, I just want to say, it's not like they need to redesign the map or recode in terms of like coding a whole new hardpoint. They literally, ideally, need to swap out 2 and 5 at a push just to test it. And we're talking 2 existing hills and changing the order of them, which is going to be a really short code, short test time. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, to further on my point from before about like not about the points and stuff, especially in this game because it's all maps that didn't have hardpoint in before.
Yeah.
How are the developers supposed to know where to put them without proper input? You know?
Yeah,
just stuff like that.
But saying that, Subbase 2 and 3, and I mean, you didn't need to be a genius to be like, that was a honker, whoever did that.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing, they didn't know which maps were going to be in the competitive pool.
No.
So like with when Call of Duty makes a game with completely new bespoke maps, they can have a sort of an inkling as to what maps they think are going to be used.
Yeah.
And to an extent as well, mate, you've got to consider that it's not like they haven't got like a ton of history to work from either. You know, these guys aren't going to be fresh to it, and they have got quite a large, you know, pool of information to work from. I mean, I suppose it does make sense if it's only 18 months. That is like that's almost a regular development crunch time. Like probably not as long as that, but it's probably not far off. Especially if you've got, you know, a 4-year development, or if you know, if you were doing a bigger game, a longer game, then 18 months would be your crunch time. So it is crazy.
They were originally developing Advanced Warfare 2, but they had to nix that and just completely change everything that they were doing.
So jetpacks. Oh, that would have been wonderful.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but
hell.
they were originally doing that, and then it just got taken away from them by the higher up. So they had to completely bin everything they had done, and we've ended up with this, which I'm fine with. And I'm not usually the person to sit here and defend the people who make Call of Duty or the people in charge of the CDL or whatever, but I will die on this hill of saying I don't think the developers are completely at fault.
No, I think
you're quite right.
It's not obviously when me and Pabs moan and slate things, we're not moaning at the people who are fundamentally not able to actually have a say or kind of some form of steering the ship when it comes to some of this. It's always going to be the people higher up that obviously they let the development team, right, this is what you're doing, this is what you're working on. They give them the scope of work and they say you've got to do it. So obviously with this one, it was, right, we're bringing back old maps, we've got 18 months to do it, go out and blitz it. And the fact that you've said that and that they've scrapped it and had to kind of wedge this game together, fundamentally, as a gameplay side for comp, and kind of the fluidity of the game and the movement, this is probably one of the better CODs we've had. Which is scary to say, considering that the guys have obviously put it together last minute on an old engine. It does feel actually like, I mean, me and Pabs have come back to cast it because we enjoy it more than what MW2. I mean, MW2 used to drive me mad. But on a game that's so last minute, but it's just, and this is where it's so frustrating. There is like evidence that if things are done correctly, you get a good outcome from it. But it's so frustrating that for a 3-year cycle, it feels as though they're pedaling into the wind on something that they don't need to spend
I think
time
the problem
on.
you face is the decision makers at that level are largely looking at the size of the casual base that are buying the game, which is enormous.
And Warzone,
and just don't give a shit.
Well, and Warzone, like
it's so huge. It's like in terms of a proportion against the buying competitive side, it's the proportion's insane. The difference is monumental. So for the people who are making those decisions, you know, they look at cost benefit, cost analysis, and probably just think, what's the point? You know, unless until it starts becoming bad publicity and everyone starts moaning about the same thing, or something is utterly broken that it's a reflection on the devs, then you'll get a change. But
it
I
is
don't know.
it is very it feels as though at the moment COD is very Warzone spearheaded. The 50 billion attachments in the game, like Pick 10 was obviously a very, very good core for Call of Duty. Even when you go back to COD 4, where you had a red dot sight, you had a grenade launcher, which obviously didn't get used, or you had a suppressor or an ACOG. That was it. That was all you could put on your gun. And now, and to be honest, I think 90% of the player base would say, bin off the 5 million attachments. You've got like, God knows how many muzzles on guns now. That, as far as I can see, I know you can actually bring up the stats now and see what each individual one does. And I sit there and I look at it, I'm like, why is this a thing? But there is an underlying thing of it, which I do think is fundamentally Warzone is the spearhead of what they do. And even with patches and updates, I think it was last COD, it might have been during the Vanguard year, people were screaming out for an update in multiplayer COD for competitive, and it didn't happen for about 3 months. What was the glitch? Oh, it was the bomb glitch in Vanguard. That took fucking ages for them to sort that. And I remember people started flagging up an issue in Warzone, and that got patched instantly. I think it was like 2 days later, and we had to deal with this bomb glitch for yonks. I think it happened during a cup or something as well.
Is that where you could see the bomb?
Well, you could see when they would, you could see where they were defusing it. I'm pretty sure it was a thing where you could see where they were defusing it through the wall, like looking at your mini map or something. But I can't confirm it. Obviously, Ant can only confirm so much for what he knows. So we're kind of just we're butting our heads against the wall on this one. So I will pull it away from a bit of negativity and only for a little bit. No. One thing that we can say in challenges this year, Ant, me and Pab say it every single time we stream. I think it's like our catchphrase at the moment, is we are very spoiled this year for the quality of player that we have in challenges, both NA and Europe. Obviously, me and Pabs are more EU based, and the team that we look at the most at the moment, and everyone is looking at, they're saying this is a CDL team. Boxhead FC is a team that is very much the boys to knock off the throne, I think is the best way of phrasing it at the moment.
Yeah, I think to put it in a crass way, we are fucking spoiled with teams.
Yeah, 100%. When the CDL shit the bed, we get to make it. It's unreal. It's great.
And that team that you talked about there, you know, Hixie, Bance, Nasty, and Beans, that is the 13th CDL team at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, those guys, I don't want to say it's over for EU this year, but it just might be, because, like, I can't see them losing. Like, after watching the grand finals of the Cup the other day where they just swept Steve-O's lot, I was like, oh my God, it didn't even look like it was close.
I don't even think I don't even
put together a four-man in my mind that could potentially put a ton of pressure on them, and you get to like 2 or 3 players, and then there's always one player that you think their box head would just ruin that side, because they even the smallest weakness is just going to get absolutely punished.
Yeah, I think the only way that they lose stuff this year is if they beat themselves. If they like slack off for an event, for a cup or something, and they just allow someone else to nick one.
I mean, it's not going to happen, is it? Let's be honest. They've not got to where they were last year by ever slacking off. I just can't see it happening. I think and with how difficult it's going to be this year, and they're not super people. They know the system now as well, so they're going to be working to maintain that top spot. Plus, what it's going to come down to this year is going to come down to their performances against the NA teams when they get onto LAN.
Yeah.
And those NA, you look at Exceed's team, like they're going to go toe to toe with them. Like Exceed gets underrated, and I'm the worst person for it because when he's the one to hate when you see him. He's so annoying, but he's so good. He's ridiculous, and he's so underrated.
But I
Did you
think.
see? Sorry, Tom.
Go on.
But did you see that Exceed was the only one player to ask us to cover the minimap in NA?
Yes, because I saw you put the text over the font. Exceed asked us to cover minimap. Yeah, I did see that.
Mate, how many times have I asked us in Clutch when we were doing Clutch to grass up the players that made us?
Yeah, Pabs was like, name drop them now. Like, no, but one thing with this team of four, obviously we've only seen a couple of like big tournaments where we've seen what they have to offer. I still don't even think we've seen even like an ounce of what this team has, like potential wise. Obviously, we're still at the start of COD. It's still the start of COD. Me and Pabs say all the time is the best chance for outside teams to form upsets. And I can only see this Boxhead team getting better and better and better and better and refining everything that they do. And I think they're just going to keep getting better where other teams start to kind of tilt out a little bit and kind of peter off and kind of hit their ceiling. But this team of four, I think we saw it in a few series where I don't think they were really playing 100%. Like, I don't think they were leading forwards. Obviously, we saw it, Pabs, in the series where Felix's team took a map off them. Where's I'll put it on the other side of the room. They took the first map off them, and then the rest of the series, Felix's team did get slapped about quite considerably. Yeah. So, I mean, early days... We
said this about the Spanish lads when they won the first 3 cups. We said exactly the same thing, and then Steve Vortex found an answer, do you know what I mean? And not just him. I think Denza was also there as well. So I think there was a couple of teams that suddenly found their rhythm, and they were able to do something. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult.
I mean, that Potbelly, they were such good names, by the way. Boxhead FC and Potbelly FC. Like I said to Pabs on stream, it's like forming like a really bizarre superhero if you combine the two of them with like a box head and a big belly on them. But yeah, that Steve Vortex side with him, Harry, Mythics, fourth struggling.
And you want me to chip in?
I know.
I've been drinking certain. No,
it's chill.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking yeah! Obviously, yeah. So. Who arguably it was probably EU's best, or one of EU's best players last year. Like Chilt was unreal on MWIII.
Nah. Listen, Chilt is the most underrated assault rifle player in the history of Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Because like genuinely, ever. That guy, how in the fucking world he's not got a chance in the league is beyond me. He is. I think he could go into the league and be a top 8 AR.
Yep, he's an incredible player.
Well, if he was American, he probably would have had a shot by now. I know me and Pabs, we sound very salty whenever we talk about this.
We deserve to be salty though. The amount of times they've flagrantly been biased towards the I mean, it's already biased anyway, and like you've got to doff your cap a little bit. Like it starts there, doesn't it? For the effort they put in the early days to make COD and esport and make it a thing. You can't knock that. You can't take that away from them. That's why everyone else does it. But like at some point, you've got to say, all right, we're at where we are because of the work we've put in. But the UK lads have also done the same thing. Spanish and Frenchies have, but MVP was French last year. You've got like the potential MVP for this year is Asia Pacific. It's going to be potentially could be Pred going huge. So it's a global global thing. So to this bias, and then let's not talk about the bias and challenges once the EU lads get over to LAN and the admins start being knobheads.
he's not biased, I promise. But kind of again,
we've got it on. We've got video proof of it. Do you know what I mean?
But we do actually have, as some of the guys are mentioning in chat, there is EU talent that has come in this year in CDO. Obviously, we'll stick it to challenges, but we will shout out the guys that have managed to make it. Obviously, Abuza now on that Seattle Surge roster, and he's playing with some royalty kind of level players here with Arstes, Illy and Hook. So he's not been put on kind of what you would consider as like a bottom barrel roster, like first year in challengers, like a Royal Ravens, like, okay, we'll see what they can do. He's been put in with a big team who haven't had recent success, I suppose you would say, but they are mammoth players nonetheless.
They're big players, but they are ever so slightly on the struggle bus themselves a little bit.
But still,
Alec has been on the struggle bus for a while.
Yeah. But you've still you won't be able to take ability away from that team. I think that team of 4 will surprise some people this year, to be honest. As long as they put a Boozer in the right role, but I think he's playing sub.
From what I'm hearing from scrims, they're a lot better than people thought they were going to be, and their S&D is looking really good as well.
Well, I don't want to say too much because I probably will end up jinxing it. But I'd
a little bit of a caster curse on a podcast.
Oh, we do it all. Yeah, we do it all the time. Me and Pabs are
COD remembers.
Yeah, no, me and Pabs jinx absolutely everything. So obviously, Abuzer's one player that's managed to go up and get in there. But yeah, Linz is the other guy who's managed to go up. So out of that kind of that stacked French kind of core that we had with the likes of Cobra, obviously he can blow very hot and cold from time to time, Cobra, but again, he's been somebody who has had eyes on him to say, right, he's been like Vanguard, he had maps where he was unreal. Like Cobra on Bocage Hardpoint was immense. You've obviously got Brezzy as well, who's been there. So there was a pool of European players, and obviously Linz has now managed to. Is he 19? And I think he just turned 19.
Yeah.
So still very much a raw talent, and someone who we'll be waving the flag for 100%.
I think Linz is a terrific player. I do think they should have given him a year in NA Challengers first.
I think that's a shout.
It's going to be interesting to see, because he could, like, obviously I'm praying with everything. I'm crossing my heart and hoping that he just thrives in that team. But he could so easily be out of his depth.
But that's where...
And we know what happens. As someone's pointed out, if the results don't go the right way, the finger's going to be pointed at him straight away, the way kind of Bean's got it early doors.
Oh, yeah, well... But this is the thing. Ben didn't have a bad year in COD. This was the thing that baffled me, that was why Ben didn't even get a team. Like, Ben, I still remember the first moment that Ben had in challenges where I think he stuck Awakening at the back of the head at the start of a hard point, and I thought, oh no, don't do that, because everyone's going to be on his back. But he had a good year last year in COD. Like, he had some really big series where people thought, oh well, he's going to get absolutely mudded by some of these NAARs, and he didn't at all. I don't know what your thoughts on that are for him, because obviously he came in when Methods retired, then obviously Ben got the shot at doing it. Are you? I mean, me and Pabs are still like, Bean should be in the league, but are you of the?
I think first of all, I think that was the quickest I had ever leaked a roster move. I think Methods retired, and about 2.5 minutes later, I was like, Bean's going for the roster. But yeah, I think Ben's unfortunate, to be honest. I think he's a victim of the situation in Boston. If they hadn't got the opportunity to get Parista from New York, maybe things would have been a bit different. But the fact that they brought Slasher in, I think they said to Austin, you can have whoever you want, basically, as your AR duo.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Ben, being European, it made less financial sense for Breach to keep him on as their sub player.
It definitely feels like the stack of AR players. I think this is why, like you say, like MWIII, for example, it becomes harder for him to get in the league, because there is a very big core NA heavy AR set in the CDL, all of which are very, very good. Again, like you throw a name like Arcetes in there, who's again had a few rough years, but as a core AR player, you say, oh, we got Arcetes on AR. Most teams would go, yeah, happy days, sound. Obviously, Scrap came in after having an impeccable year. He's done very well himself, and he has actually managed to cement himself as an AR player. But with like Abuza, I think he is running sub, if I'm not mistaken, on that Surge team, and obviously he was fundamentally brilliant on AR last year, which I think is potentially something that I'm really hoping isn't going to end being the deal where he's getting kind of shoehorned into a role that he's not necessarily is most comfortable one, because there isn't necessarily a huge pool of quality SMG players across every single team. I think that definitely feels as though that's where the hole is, and that's why I'm really pissed about Eric, by the way. But I don't know. I think it's always going to be harder for EU players to get in regardless, but I do think ARs have a harder chance of getting in the league at the moment probably than an SMG player would. Call me controversial, but
I mean, it's so many factors this year. You try and take the kind of like the process of going from challenges to CDL, just in any year, just take it as kind of its own isolated thing, and it's always going to be a little bit tricky because it is so AR heavy. But now you consider that they're talking about having to scale stuff back because of finances. Then, as Ant mentioned before, visas for players and accommodation for players and all
yeah.
the other things that come with it are just going to add to that extra burden. And again, my big problem for a long time has been that it's, as much as they call it an esport, it's still largely been a friends league. When that, until we get to the point where stats and performances count over like who knows who, until we get to that point where, you know, an actual coach sits down and goes, these are the 4 best players for these positions for the team that we can get, and not just so and so knows so and so, they're all right.
Mm.
That's always driven me crazy, and I think that's largely excluded some great EU talent from going into the league.
So, Anne, I will ask you, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Me and Pabs have loved Eric since we literally cast him in Vanguard. Like that was the first proper series that me and Pabs cast where I was struggling to keep up with who was getting kills and where they were getting kills.
Yeah, because it was a big jump for us. We went
yeah.
from like quite a slow, you know, casting Detries to suddenly casting. I think it was Brezzy in that X's Foxes side? Was it X's Foxes against what was the team beginning with M from
What,
Spain?
Mavericks?
Mavericks
Yeah.
versus, was it X's Foxes or Clutch Rain?
I think it was Clutch Rain. I'm pretty sure it was Clutch Rain against Mavericks.
Yeah,
And that was when me and Pabs first cast our, it's so romantic, cast our eyes on Eric, and we were like, oh my,
he's for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, that team is a 4. Wow.
And Super.
Yeah, no, so all the boys from Spain are quality.
And Sucre. I fucking love them lads.
Yeah. No, we are a big drum banger of Eric.
Yeah,
you're obviously an
yeah.
incredibly close friend of Eric, and probably share the same frustration that we do have. We don't know what's gone on behind the scenes. We don't know how much you can tell us about behind the scenes. But obviously, from our perspective, it was like, yes, the Boom is going to the league. Haven't played a game.
Was it that he was too good?
The Boom's not in the
CDL?
league. What the fuck's happened to the Boom? Why isn't he in the league?
He's too good, isn't he? Tell us.
I think what you've just described is like exactly how I felt. And it's like I love the rest of that Spanish team as well. So I'm not going to say what happened because I don't
100%.
I don't want anybody to come off badly here, because I'm like Adrian, Juan, Javi, Alex. I love them all, and I don't want any of them to like come across badly, because
No, not at all.
it wasn't necessarily the decision of either the players or one individual. But if I don't think Eric was given a fair shot.
I was gonna say the guy's not shot a bullet, by the way. Like, fair.
I think
I know Scrim's hold weight. I get that, but the guy's not shot a bullet. He's been called up to a CDL team, and he's right. Okay, this is our 4. Boom, 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 boom. And the poor fucker's not shot a single bullet in a competitive environment, and not even had the chance. Like, it's like so close, and then pitfall straight down on the floor. Like,
I think the biggest compliment I can give him is how quickly he managed to turn it around from being like, oh fuck, I've been dropped from the team, to, oh my god, I'm gonna fucking win in challenges. Like,
yeah.
the turn, it was like less than a 24-hour gap between those two different emotions. And like, Juan Journey was on the team with Cruz, Lunas, and Gunsy before, and it was a straight swap.
Right.
And Grim. and just listen, because the vibes are impeccable on that team. It's just so funny to listen to them scrim. And in scrims, I think it should be about team building and learning the game above winning. And
because the winning will come naturally
exactly
beyond that.
Yeah.
exactly. And the way they put it, like last year, Cruz didn't get a top 8 until like May. Luna's got one top 8 at the end of the year, like online. Like they struggled online, and now they've already got their first one, because I'm counting my cup as an official cup, obviously. Now they've
Cup.
they've already got shut up. They've already got themselves a top 8, and that was with all of the issues that they had with Cruz having to play a best of 7 series on Modern Warfare 2 in the middle of Sunday. Like, I have a lot of faith in that team, and I think it is incredibly biased of me to say, because Rory is also one of my very good friends, and in the process of just spending time around the 4 of them, they've all become close friends of mine, which is obviously like it's hard for me to hide bias towards my friends. I try my best. Like if you go back and listen to my cast of the lower bracket final, like if you know me and how I feel about certain players, and then you go and listen to that cast when I'm casting over Gunless, like you can tell I am able to put it aside, and I do that in my coverage as much as I can. But like it's hard not to root for them.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir here, mate.
Yeah,
the amount of
you are preaching
if
to
you
the choir.
if you watch like me and Pabs, sometimes you'll literally just hear us go, "No!"
Yeah.
Pabs is renowned for like ad-libbing, "No!" like in the background when we cast it. Like that bias is always going to be there. Like, but I think
On occasion.
it's not like it's not a bias through hatred for another player or another team. It's literally bias through liking or loving a team or player. So it comes from a good place.
This goes back to my whole thing about like the reason I do all of this shit is because of how much love I have for people. And it's like, I don't know, I a lot of the time people will accuse me of shit. Like one player came into my DMs after an elite last year and was like, "Yo, what's your beef with my team? Like you don't post our stats ever, but then when we lose, you post our stats straight away." I'm like, bro, first of all, your team was the only team that didn't send me their VOD link so I could get the stats. Secondly, just get out of my DMs. like I just wish people like that could understand that the reason I'm doing everything is just out of a pure love for the community, because
I don't think it's that bad a deal to be slightly biased towards players that you got a connection with. I mean, we're always going to be, when it becomes a LAN event with NA and EU, we're always going to back the EU teams regardless. Like we'll just follow the EU teams right to the point where they're they're in the final, they get knocked out. But when it's EU versus EU, like we want everyone to do well. I'd love the teams, there's so many players, it's at different levels. Do you know what I mean? We want to see the likes of Weeman and Steve Vortex get into the CDL as much as we want to see, the likes of Felix and Smudge and Dizzy and players like that just go on and strive to be better in challenges so they get the opportunity as well. But we grew up in at this level with certain amount of players, so we have got a little bit of, you can hear it when we cast, when they get a 3-piece, or if they win the game, there's just a little elevation, or if it's always going to be the case. But again, I'm not looking to be a CDL caster. I've got absolutely zero ambition. This is my level. I'm absolutely happy here casting challenges. It's brilliant. It's an honor to do it, and this is how we'll do it. This is our way of doing it.
I kind of feel like that as well. It's like I have very limited wanting to cover CDL matches, because like what would be the point in me trying to keep up with like accounts that have whole teams behind them? Like what's the point? What's the point in me trying to cover the CDL when Breaking Point have like 3 people behind their social media? Like there's no point in me trying to compete. And I have such a lesser connection with people in the CDL because they are gatekept by the league. Like they are limited in what they can do and say outside of playing their matches.
Yeah.
Like it's so much easier for me to DM people and like get into calls with people and just sit and talk with someone like Eric or even people from other teams. Like if I wanted to go and talk to Chilt or someone like that, I would just message them and be like, look, can we chat or some shit like that?
Yeah.
And they'd be down. Whereas it would be so much more difficult to do that with somebody on a CDL team because they're just so much harder to reach. Which I suppose it does come down to like the contract situation. Like they are contracted to play professional Call of Duty, so they do have to put their whole pussy into it at all times, you know.
Yeah.
Which I get. Like I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But
then again,
it's,
I know you're saying, oh, yeah, there's not much point you trying to compete with like COD Intel and all that other stuff. But obviously your brand and you as a person have grown from doing and covering challenges. That's how it organically grew. You didn't start covering CDL and then all of a sudden it blew up. All of your growth and success predominantly came from challenges, because a lot of people held the similar opinion that you do of finding the entertainment in the games, finding those close personal connections. Like we talk about the Sheffield LAN that fell flat on its face, right? But the best part of that was literally meeting people, being around them, having a laugh with them, a couple of drinks, and literally the community was there. Everything about the Sheffield LAN in terms of COD and gaming went tits up. There was nothing really good about it, but people still came away and were like, you know what, that was actually quite good. Like,
I got a picture with Chaxter. That was my weekend done.
Like Pabs fell in love with Chaxter at Sheffield, and every single time he's like, "How's Cal getting on? How's Cal getting on?" Like he's always checking up on him, and there's a lot of people in the community that hold that similar opinion of the COD is obviously the mutual like interest that everyone has, but it's more the community more so than the gameplay and the stuff that you promote and advertise for those people who don't get that coverage and get that exposure. I think that's why people happily back it, and it grew so organically because there was a huge open space for it, and people liked it. People thought there's a requirement for it, and here you are now with I've lost count how many followers you got now, mate. Was it like 30-something thousand now?
Yeah, it's just over 30K now.
Yeah,
which is crazy. So like that is actually just a mind-boggling number. Like I've worked on and with like bigger accounts than that. Like Tatter's got something like 350K now, but that's not like even that is not as mind-boggling to me as 30K on the rotation, because the rotation is like in such a more niche market that being able to capture the entire community rather than just a subsection of it. I think that's what like again, I'm trying so hard to not just like brag, because I'm really aware that it can come across like that.
I think people forget the rotation's just you, though. I think that sometimes the consistency and the fact that like you see that on the timeline, you know, not just once or twice a day, but it's consistent. You're always there with the information. You know, you talk about breaking point and CDL intel, but you break as consistently and you earlier or at the same time as those guys, which with a much bigger group of people being involved with that, and you're doing a full-time job, and you've got Tat as well, and you've got about a million other things on the go. So you know that's only driven by passion for the thing. It's almost like you've got like a massive real job that you have to do, but somehow manage to fit 8 and 10 hours in the day through a normal day for just Call of Duty information.
I think. Oh, go on.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's the best compliment that people can pay me, is when somebody like just somebody who's followed for a little while DMs and says "you guys" or something like that, when it's like just an assumption that it's that it's a team. I'm like, oh, it means I'm doing something right. If people think it's more than one person doing all this shit, then I must be doing something correctly.
No, I was about to say, you can always tell that it's literally just you, Ant, when you do it, because if someone does like a really stupid reply to something, you'll just be like, yeah, you're a burger. And it's all lowercase because you've obviously just gone on Twitter, typed it, hit enter, and just fucked off and done something else. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you can tell it's the most organic Twitter of just you doing it, because there's like minimal effort. It's like, yeah, shut the fuck up. Anyway, bang, send.
No, that's the thing. Like it's just authentic, and it's just me at the end of the day. like like most of it is just me being an arse, mostly to my friends sometimes. Like the people I roast most are the people I'm friends with.
Yeah, like if there's a
Like-
clip of like Eric doing something horrendous, you'd be like, "Lol, you're shit,"
They,
and then
yeah,
and
he's
then
never letting it down.
yeah, but the kind of the more kind of corporate and rigid like Twitter accounts, obviously they can't tweet something like that. You'd never see something like that from like. Could you imagine COD League just being like "lol, you shit" or something if somebody put like a clip up?
Even if they were just went half as deep as that, it would be amazing. I think everyone would just fall over and be like, "There's a real person at the helm. Someone phone them."
But that's where you lose. That's where you get that kind of. I think that's where you get that disconnect from, like Premier League football or non-league football. People kind of you lose the people that are involved in all that multi-million-pound production, and that's the thing that you can't really lose with challengers because it is very much on a personal level with players, with casters. You know if you went up to Andy after he'd finished a cast and just started taking the piss out of him or that kind of thing, but like a CDL event, you wouldn't really be able to even get to him unless he's done all his broadcast, he's signed off, he's out of the building, and he's like not got any sort of COD League branding on him or anything like that, for example. But in challengers, it's the complete opposite of that, and I think that's what
I
people
think
are
there's
slowly.
a detrimental effect of that though, mate. Is that I think like to an extent, like the production at the that we've had for challenges has been great. It's that struck that balance between being done really well, but feeling really community focused and everyone being able to be in touch with each other and being able to reach out to each other beyond the production into players and into the community and the people who watch it as fans.
Yeah,
But then when the players end up at a LAN and they're playing in a sports hall, which is like probably like -3 degrees and stinks of cheese, you just get the opposite end of the spectrum, and it's just largely uncomfortable mess. And I think that's the worst thing. You want that balance. I'd love to have that strike that balance between being able to retain the community vibe, the Trevor Mutiny style Periscope, and the players actually being able to make a survive with a living and actually play somewhere that's relatively comfortable and not like some kind of bizarre esoteric challenge beyond the actual game.
yeah. Well, here's another question and answer. I'm gonna just when they pop into my head, I will just throw them at you to see if we can
Yeah,
get you to
absolutely.
if you can answer. The challengers lands. Last year we had 4. Am I right?
Mhm.
This year we ain't got 4. We got one less than 4. So
Yep.
we talked about kind of chopping limbs off of challengers. Do you
Mhm.
know a reason as to why that's not a thing, or can you say? Can you not say? Or...
Um.
what?
So I'm fairly certain people are aware which team it is now. Like, I didn't say which team it was, but I'm fairly certain people are aware which team it is. Do you guys know before I say? Do you guys already know that?
I saw something. I saw something about. I think it was Ravens. I saw a reply in the tweet because when the tweet went up and everyone was like outraged. I think somebody was like, "I bet it's London Royal Ravens" or something. Of somebody
Yeah,
who bailed.
I just don't want to get anyone in trouble, you know.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So it was more a case of whoever had pre-agreed to host this then suddenly went on. We can't do it now.
No, this team just straight up said they didn't want to pay for it.
But how does that work then? What they get? So they get given the opportunity, and
so they get the prize pool given to them by the league,
right,
but everything else needs to be paid for by the team.
right.
So that's the venue, the PC rentals, the admins, everything needs to be paid for by the team.
But
Right, so
but then obviously that
what's the finances
yeah,
there?
I was going to say what that team that had the opportunity to do it, is that something that when they sign up to the CDL, kind of every team has a slot? So year 1 is these 4, year 2 is these 4, and then they've just gone, actually we can't do it this year.
They sell the majors each year because they just can't plan in advance. Like
right.
not because they physically can't, but it's because they don't, because they're incompetent.
Well, so is that because none of the rest of the teams wanted to buy the opportunity or buy the slot, so to speak? Or was it they bought it and then went, oh, actually we can't, and now all of a sudden nobody else can do it?
No. The venue for the challenges and the PC rentals and the admins.
Can I just roll back a bit there because I'm so confused, right? That's like a level of detail. Like I messaged you the other day, didn't I, saying about interesting to try and do a dive into CDL finance, but like they're paying yearly for a franchise. They're paying a considerable amount of money each year to enter that franchise, and then they're being lumbered with the cost of putting on a major.
Yeah, yeah, I don't get it whatsoever. It's like they are lumped with the cost of putting the challengers land on, like not entirely the major, but and some teams get tax breaks from the cities that they host majors in, like Charlotte will get massive tax breaks. Like there's a whole esports fund in North Carolina. Like that's the reason that they're holding a major is because they get so much money from that. I think it's like $1.2 million or something. But like the teams then have to pay their entry fee for the league and they have to pay the contracts for the players. And then when the players win prize money, the
Yeah.
players are legally entitled to 50% at least of the prize money.
And this is what I said at the top of the thing. The guy that I know that worked within one of the organizations said the finances from a team perspective are a mess. Like
Yeah, it just doesn't make
it,
any sense for me.
it's a fucked business model.
Like you don't watch Premier League football and you think, oh, the team wins the league, so all of the players get 50% of the prize winnings. That just doesn't happen in an actual sport. Like, so why should that happen in esports? If you are already on even a minimum contract of $55,000 a year, that's the minimum contract this year. That is way more than some people will make across the world.
Yeah.
Like why not give all of the prize money to the teams and let them pay their players a bit more when they decide?
Mm.
You know, like it's
it doesn't make sense not to copy like a
doesn't
tried
sound
and
like a
tested
sustainable
model.
model, though. It doesn't sound like a sustainable model, though,
No.
at all, does it?
Well,
It does not
there's-
sound like it would work over time.
Well, like I'm saying, kind of we
But
cross-reference
it's not
football.
working over time, is it?
No.
It's not. Like we are failing.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, if I took that business model to my boss or my boss's boss, I'd be laughed out the room, like immediately laughed out the room. Even if they tried to turn around and say, "You're going to make it back on the licensing for merch and selling merch and all the that much merch for such what is essentially a niche market. It isn't, you know, the viewership might be huge in terms of what you get on for a CDL final. But let's be honest, like the actual proportion of buying people in within that are going to be split among 12 teams, and then that's going to be another percentage that's only going to be willing to pay for that.
Yeah.
And that largely that viewership isn't going to have an independent income to buy merch anyway. They're going to have to then turn around to other people to say, "Can you get me this?" And some of the merch is expensive, you know, especially if you're abroad and you're looking at like $60 for a hoodie and then $25, $30, $40 for shipping.
Yeah.
But like you have to add into that the fact that in the franchise, it's a load of teams that nobody has any real care for before the franchising came into place. You know, like it takes time for those fan bases to establish themselves. Like the teams that'll do best in terms of merch sales are Toronto Ultra because they have done a fucking boss job with their
awesome
branding.
job.
Yeah.
Like they are out of all the franchise teams that don't have any like X org name in their team
Really
name.
smart work.
They have done it incredibly well. But the other three are FaZe, Optic, because they're FaZe and Optic,
Yeah.
and then Heretics this year because they have the Heretics name and that's a massive fan base worldwide.
Yeah.
You know, like it's so difficult because it's so limited by a lot of the franchise stuff.
Although LA Thieves, I think, do a good job outside of
Oh, Thieves as well. Thieves as well.
Yeah,
really do
say
well.
Thieves, yeah.
But
like,
you can
they have-
you can
Smith
argue
as
you
well.
can argue Thieves obviously is off the back of say Nadeshot and his all of his
Yeah, it
branding.
is.
Yeah,
Um,
and
He's done a
even-
great job with that. He's not. I think it's gone beyond name recognition for Thieves now. They have great merch. They have a great ecosystem. The whole thing for them has worked really well.
But even they struggle for the money. They had to cut back on their roster for this year, and they lost more than $2.5 million in the year that they won champs.
Yeah.
Like that's
Well-
that just shouldn't fly.
Well, here's a thing that Sam's put in chat. Obviously, we talk about support for challengers. One esport that has a very good habit of crowdfunding, Valorant.
Halo as well.
Yeah.
They both do it.
We don't have any form of crowdfunding across COD whatsoever, which is
Not this year.
yeah. I mean, it just seems a bit mad as to why the opportunity wouldn't even be there potentially for events for players. We know obviously they sell skins and all this kind of stuff in COD. There's an opportunity to do it, and if they do it well, a lot of money could be generated, and the people that are paying for them would happily see their money go towards the league and to challengers and see that money actually serve a purpose rather than buying it in game and then that's it.
If you think about it as well, like if they did crowdfund prize pools, they could then lower that amount of money that they're putting in themselves to save money.
Yeah.
Like they're putting in 2.5 million for champs. Well, they could make that 1 million and then crowdfund the rest, which is fine because they probably end up with more anyway because the amount of CDL skins that people buy. It's yeah, there definitely won't be any crowdfunding this year. I have hopes that it'll be in next year. For Gulf War, I believe it's called, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I think another key to the potential it being successful for me is if they were able to solidify a format that didn't change, you know, an agreed format of in terms of how many events they put on, and rather than it being this thing where we've never had the information, it's dwindled year on year, where the business model was a bit tighter, it was a bit more sensible, it relied on kind of these outside kind of investments like crowdfunding, but ultimately year on year everyone knew what they were getting. It was the same each year. You kind of had a platform that you could be relied on for a few years that wasn't going to change. So an X amount of challenges, X amount of majors, so that and just keep that format rigid. Don't plan year on year, plan with 2 or 3 years in mind, just so that we can get a settled base for both CDL and challenges to work, rather than this seems like the franchise seems to have been very poorly thought out to have been rushed. But you're saying that YouTube was agreed last year and it's only announced now, but it still feels rushed. It still feels like they didn't they you know how it goes when you've got something to announce, even at the smallest level. The day before, you've got the contract meme with eyes on, and then you announce the next day. And as you get to a bigger and bigger and bigger platform, you know it. You have a roadmap of announcements that should come out. And it just feels like there is literally no planning gone into it. It feels so short term as well. Like the game came out and then they just suddenly decided to do, well, we've had the information back and we've got 3 tournaments and it's going to be 3 challenges and 3. It just feels so unthought out. And again, this is where it stems back to me. It feels like a cash grab. But maybe the Microsoft thing is going to be like, could potentially be something that could turn things around beyond this season, beyond coming out of Modern Warfare 3 and going into Gulf War. If it is going to be taken over, we know Microsoft are in charge. They might want to do things differently. It would be lovely to have a settled 3 years so that everyone knew where they stood.
Yeah, well, I can't say too much, but
yes, let's go on.
Like, I have hope beyond this year.
I was gonna drop a
this year might suck.
Yeah.
What's that?
This year might suck.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But
I have hope for beyond this year.
Because obviously I'm just being wary of time, man. I will start throwing relatively quick questions. Obviously, we asked a few people on Twitter as well. And Andy Enigma, gorgeous human being, by the way. He asked a question, so I'll ask you this one actually. Elite 1 champs, NA/EU. I'll ask you to pick a team for each one. For dark horses, that's what he's asked. Any dark horses that you think?
Elite 1 champs at EU is going to be Nasty, Bance, Beans, and Hixie.
Yeah, but dark horses. Dark horses,
I actually think the Spanish.
You think? Because they did have a torrid time in that cup, the Katana Cup, didn't they? End up getting knocked out top 6.
Top 6, but they played with Invidian instead of Rancor, so they did that.
That's true. Yeah.
With a Phil, so I think the Spanish are my dark horse for Elite number 1.
All right. What about NA?
NA. Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Just close your eyes and stab, and you'll probably get a
Yeah.
good team.
Throw a dart at the screen.
Well, while you're thinking about that NA one, then Pabs EU Dark Horse.
It's a tricky one. It's difficult to look beyond sometimes the Spanish lads, but I think it was weird. It was weird being able to see how well Dizzy can play at times as like the lead voice in a team, and with Felix going off. I just think if they could a little bit, they could execute strategies a little faster than they are. Do a little bit more cohesive. I think they've got a few more months together if they can stay together.
Yeah.
I think they can put pressure, but it might not be.
Well, they top 3 in that one. Only third to Steve-O's boys and to Boxhead FC. Not necessarily a bad result. So I would love to see that team of 4 win an event this year, or a cup, or anything.
And
anything
just
like
because
that.
he's so funny.
Yeah, honestly, as a team of 4, obviously we sat in with some of their scripts. The charisma in some of these Challengers players that people don't even realise is so funny. And if you managed to think of one,
I could pick from about 12, which is crazy, but I think I'm going to say Spark, Prolute, TJ Halley, and Temp, because Prolute and Spark, to be honest, are very good online whilst placing top 8 at LAN.
Subtle dig.
Oh dear, that was subtle, that mate.
It wasn't even subtle.
You know what? I'm so sorry to Chris and Byron, because like it wasn't even those two who insulted my tournament on the weekend. It was their 2 teammates. So like, I'm sorry to those guys. But yeah, I think they'll win Elite 1. Prolute won 3 of the 4 elites last year. I think he's incredible. So yeah, I think that's where that'll go. In terms of Dark Horse in America, it's even more difficult, because like I don't know who you can really consider a dark horse, but seeing as they've not won an event, I am going to go with Eric Boom, Gunsy, Cruz, and Lunas as my dark horse.
I'd love Eric to go over there and start winning events, like big time. After obviously the kind of the rodeo that's happened with the CDL stuff, I'd love for him to just drop in that team and then they start picking up wins. That would be. I'd get so much satisfaction from that. You have no idea.
Yeah.
We'll see if we got any other questions. Hang on. Let me.
My dark horse for NA is going to be. I'm just going to have to. It's not a dark horse. How can you look past Exceed? That he's just the devil. He's an actual.
Yeah, I don't think he's a dark horse. I think he's like number 2.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's not dark horse, but I just can't look past him.
He's only number 2 because he made me cover the mini map, the bastard.
Yeah, he's like a demon. So I'm just going to have to stick with him.
Well, here's another one then. With obviously London Royal Ravens not being a thing anymore, how do we get a bigger presence, a bigger platform presence for UK talent? Obviously, we've got the Katana lands and potentially ES Hub ones. Do you see that as a way forward that's actually going to be a viable method of trying to put EU players on the map, considering now that we don't have an EU org outside of obviously the Spanish guys?
Well, I think the London Royal Ravens did a shit job at it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I think that the Katana lands with the Wired Lobby, everything that I'm hearing is super mega positive.
Yep.
With that kind of thing, like every time I get a little more of detail about those lands, I'm a bit more excited, because it all just seems thought through way more than a certain other previous land that we had was.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me, take away for me from that, is that the opportunity for the Katana guys to go in way prior to the date of the LAN and get a ton of opportunity to put lands on for the local people in Middlesbrough, the students and that. So they're going to come into this. It's not the same situation. They're coming into that land with a way more experience and in the place that's going to be held. So yeah, I in terms of a UK LAN, I've got a really positive feeling about it.
Well, and I'll end it on a simple yes or no for you both.
Oh God.
Pabs, I'll go to you first. COD, are we fucked long term, or do you think we'll be all right?
will be challenges level will be fine because there's dickheads like us. So challenges level will be sound because there'll always be a Noctum or a Nawaba Bob. I think loads of people want to help the players in any way they can. I think the fact that Ant has come through is like just totally changed the face of challenges in terms of how it communicates its information and how it communicates it to each other. And it's not just some faceless, brand trying to break into a larger thing. It's, someone who genuinely passionate about it. We know how there's way more casters than us in the EU that are well more capable. There's like we've obviously got Brody, we've got Andy Enigma who can do Warzone as well, and now we've got Bryson Tunn coming back from the CDL. So we'll see how that goes. But there's just so much support, and everyone just loves it. And long term, in terms of the CDL, one of the richest companies in the world now owns the brand, and I just think they potentially are going to have people that might be passionate about this as well, and long term post CDL, post whoever owns that franchise, and I think they can see there's an opportunity to do something better with a smarter business model.
All right, and obviously with your behind the scenes knowledge, in a simple term, obviously without dropping any info that you're not able to, are we fucked or are we all right?
I'm gonna keep it very simple, and I'm just gonna say 3-4 words. Microsoft will save us.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Short and sweet. Well, shout out to Ant once again. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you, buddy.
No, mate, thank you. I'm always happy to be here. I'm happy to talk COD. I could do it all day, every day. You know me at this point, boys.
Yeah, there you go, Pabs. Microsoft are coming through for the boys, so load up on your Microsoft points. But yeah, thank you very much to everyone who has tuned in into the stream.
Does this mean
today.
that we're going to all have to get Game Pass though?
Oh yeah, well yeah, probably. I'm reluctant to get subscriptions, but I think for that one I might. If it saves COD, I'll do it.
So tight. If there was a cream egg subscription, you'd be all over that.
yeah, but I've got to survive. I need calories, mate. But yeah, no. Thanks again for coming on. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in the chat. It was a very much last minute live pod. Apologies for my internet deciding to shit the bed part way through. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it. As much as we have, and hopefully I'm actually going to have a look and see how many days it was between our first and second podcast, because we've got a pretty good chance of beating it by doing another one soon, after 2 years distance for the first one. But yeah, that is going to be it from us, guys. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in, and yes, we're not dead, we shall be resurrected again. Shout out Microsoft. Right, cheers guys, we'll see you in a bit.